So, welcome to our first class of basic electronics. And since this is the very first class, we would be learning something which is simple and which is not much related to basic electronics. Of course, this is in the syllabus, but this is more related to the lab. This is more related to the lab experiments that we would be doing. Okay, so we will be studying about high pass and low pass filters today. Okay, so the first thing is that what is a signal? So a signal is basically an agent or any agent which contains information. So it may be as simple as a gesture. Okay, so when your friend gives you a gesture and when you understand that what he means by that gesture, so that is a signal itself. Okay, now earlier when there used to be a war, or when a war broke out between two countries, they used to actually blow out red smoke. So for example, the kingdom has its castle somewhere over here. So this is the castle, and then there is some boundary of the kingdom like this, and suppose enemy is invading here, and there used to be guards who actually kept this boundary safe. Okay, so now let us say that there is some invasion here, and so what these guards would actually do is that they would actually blow red smoke or orange smoke deep in the air. Okay, so because when they blow smoke in the air, it's visible from the castle itself, from the large distance. Okay, so that is a signal actually. And why they used to blow smoke is because if they would make any sound, the distance is so high that the sound would not really reach the castle. So to actually depict that, or to articulate that invasion has occurred, red smoke would be blown to the air, and so people from far away distance would actually be alerted. So that is also a signal. So it is any agent which contains some information. Of course, today we are not happy with that kind of signals, because we are more accustomed to communication and distant communication. Today communication between two countries is not um, difficult actually, and today signals are basically electromagnetic waves. So all the mobile phone signals, then there is this your internet connection, and it's etc. Actually, these are all electromagnetic waves. So whenever you are generating any signal for transmission of information, there should be a sending end. So someone is generating this signal to transmit information, and this is the sending end. And then there is some receiver who actually needs the signal, or who takes information from the signal, and that is the receiving end. So there should be a sending end and there should be a receiving end. So the receiving end receives the signal, and in the midway between the sending and the receiving end, this signal is transmitted through the air. And as I said, of course, today signals are electromagnetic waves, long distance communication signals. So they would be transmitted through the air, and the air actually here acts as a channel. Okay. For example, the DTH connection in your home, it actually captures electromagnetic signal from the air. So there is a sending end which disperses this electromagnetic signal in the air for your DTH connection, and then the DTH antenna actually receives this electromagnetic signals from the air, and this air is the channel. So whenever the signal is propagating through this channel, it is likely to get interfered by other signals. So it may catch up some extra electromagnetic waves here, and then suppose there is lightning, so there can be extra electromagnetic waves. Then there might be let us say disturbance due to lightning. So lightning it also creates an electromagnetic waves which gets added to the signal when they are actually passing. So lightning and etc. There are other uh, stray electromagnetic waves which gets added up to your signal, and so your signal is not as clean as before as it were at the sending end. So the longer the signal travels, this signal would actually get interfered by extra electromagnetic waves, and it would actually become noisy. So whenever the sending end is actually dispersing the signal to the air, he is actually sending a clean signal. However, when the signal is propagating through the air, the signals gets interfered by stray electromagnetic waves, and some unwanted electromagnetic waves becomes added up to the signal, and it becomes noisy. It is not so clean as before. So this unwanted electromagnetic signal that gets attached to your clean signal is called noise. Okay. Now at the receiving end, you must get rid of this noise, or let us say you are transmitting human voice over the air. So human voice is basically a signal or which contains frequency up to 20 kilohertz. I think you have studied this in your high school, that the human voice contains signals below 20 kilohertz frequency. So let us say someone is transmitting human voice to through the air. So that signal contains frequencies below 20 kilohertz, but as the signal is passing through the channel, or it is traversing through the air, some unwanted signal of other frequencies may also add up. For example, some signals from 30 kilohertz frequency, 40 kilohertz frequency, also signals from other sources, they can also add up. So at the receiving end, when you want to decode this human voice, you need to get rid of this unwanted signal, or you need to get rid of these unwanted frequencies, because those frequencies, for example, if a 30 kilohertz frequency adds up to your signal, it is basically of no use. You only want your signal to contain all the frequencies below 20 kilohertz, because that is the limit of human voice. So if a 30 kilohertz signal or a 40 kilohertz signal gets added up to your signal, you don't really want that at the receiving end. You must get rid of all stray frequencies that has added up to your signal beyond 20 kilohertz. Okay, so the filter exactly does the job. So these filters are basically arrangements that remove unwanted frequencies from your signal. These are also known as frequency filters because these are removing unwanted frequencies, so they are known as frequency filters. The simplest filter that we can have is actually a combination of R and C. Okay, so resistor and capacitor. Okay, so this is a resistor R and this is your capacitor C, and you are applying your V in or the input voltage at these 2 points, and you are extracting the output voltage between these 2 points. So this is basically your V out and this is V in here. Okay, now let us write the equation. What is the relation between V in and V out? Note that V in here is actually divided over this resistor R and this capacitor C. Okay, let us call this in a general language as impedance Z1, and let us assume that this capacitance has an impedance Z2. And we know that in frequency space this Z1 is basically equal to R because it's just a linear resistor. Z2 on the other hand is the impedance of a capacitor, so this is basically 1 divided by j omega c. Okay, now V out is basically V in divided by Z1 plus Z2 into Z2. So V in divided by Z1 plus Z2, this basically gives us the current that is flowing through the circuit. Let us call this I. So this is basically I, and when you multiply it with Z2, this basically gives the potential drop across this impedance Z2 or the capacitor C here. Okay, so this is basically V in. Now Z1 is basically R, just as we stated. Z2 is 1 by j omega c here, and then we have another Z2 here at the top, so this is again 1 divided by j omega c. So we just get V in divided by R j omega c plus 1. So we have multiplied both the numerator and the denominator with j omega c. Okay, now if we consider the magnitude, of V out, so from the last page we can write this V out divided by V in as 1 by R j omega c plus 1. So if we consider the magnitude, this is just V out divided by V in equals to 1 divided by root over R omega c square plus 1. Now, so let me draw the circuit here. So this was our circuit R, C, and this is V in here, and this voltage is V out basically. We can assume the ground to be at this node. Okay, now note that this magnitude of V out divided by V in is basically dependent on the frequency. Okay, so there is a frequency term here, so the magnitude of V out by V in is basically dependent on the frequency, And when omega is very small, this, or let us say omega, not omega approximately equal to 0, but omega is small basically means that when omega is much smaller compared to 1 by RC, this R omega C is actually much less than 1. So in that case, this magnitude of V out divided by V in is approximately equal to 1 divided by root over 0 plus 1. So we have put this R omega C approximately equal to 0 because it is much less than 1, and so in the denominator this 1 actually dominates over this term R omega C. Okay, so this is approximately equal to 1. So in that case, V out, or the magnitude of V out, is approximately equal to the magnitude of V in. Okay, so the signal that is at the input is completely deposited at the output. Okay, when on the other hand this R omega C is much greater than 1, then in the denominator this R omega C would dominate over the term 1. Okay, so in that limit, when R omega C is much greater than 1, then this 1 here can be neglected with respect to R omega C. So let me write it here. Let me redraw the circuit. So when R omega C is much greater than 1, then in the numerator this R omega C basically dominates over this term 1. Sorry, in the denominator this R omega C actually dominates over this term 1, and so this V out divided by V in is actually approximately equal to 1 divided by R omega C. Now since this R omega C is again much greater than 1, we can actually write it that 1 by R omega C is actually much less than 1. So this is approximately equal to 0. Okay, so V out divided by V in is approximately equal to 0 here. So note that when omega is low, that is when omega is much less than 1 by RC, then magnitude of V out divided by V in is approximately equal to 0, which basically means V out is basically approximately equal to 0. Sorry, it is approximately equal to 1, which basically means the magnitude of V out is approximately equal to the magnitude of V in. On the other hand, when omega is high, that is when omega is much greater than 1 by RC, in that limit magnitude of V out divided by magnitude of V in is approximately equal to 0, which basically means that V out is approximately equal to 0. So if we plot the V out, or the magnitude of V out versus the magnitude of V in for this circuit, this is what we will get. So this is the, let us call this as A, and A is equal to mod of V out divided by mod of V in, and V out, as I stated, that mod of V out is equal to mod of V in. So mod of V out by V in is equal to 1 when the frequency is really low, and then it gradually deteriorates, and when the frequency becomes higher, this mod of V out by mod of V in gradually deteriorates to 0 here. Okay, so this arrangement of this combination of resistor and capacitor basically passes all frequency at the output when the frequency is low, or passes the entire input to the output when the frequency is really low. However, when the frequency becomes higher, this circuit gives an output voltage of 0. So for higher frequency components of the signal, this circuit basically outputs 0 voltage. For lower frequency components of the signal, this circuit deposits the entire input at the output. Okay, so this circuit basically acts as a low pass filter, which basically means that it passes the entire low frequency component to the output, because when omega is low, the magnitude of V out is equal to the magnitude of V in. So it is passing the low frequency components of the signal to the output. However, for the high frequency component, the output is 0, as we noted that when omega is high, then, so let me write it here, when omega is low, then mod of V out is equal to mod of V in. When omega is high, this basically means mod of V out is approximately equal to 0. So this basically means that this signal is actually not allowing the high frequency components to get or to go to the output. So this circuit basically acts as a low pass filter. It is allowing, or it is choosing, the low frequency components of the signal to deliver at the output. So this basically acts as a low pass filter. So this circuit acts as a low pass filter. Okay. Similarly, just like low pass filters, we also have high pass filters. So what do high pass filters do? So high pass filters basically filter out the high frequency components of a signal and delivers them to the output. So a low pass filter basically filters out the low frequency components and delivers them to the output. A high pass filter, on the other hand, basically delivers the high frequency components to the output. Okay, so if we interchange the positions of resistor and capacitor for a low pass filter, we basically get a high pass filter. So earlier our resistor was here and this capacitor was here, and we used to take the output from the capacitor, and this actually gave me a low pass filter. Now to construct a high pass filter, we would basically keep the capacitor here, and we would take the output voltage across this resistor. So this basically gives me a high pass filter. So this is the applied input voltage V in, this is the capacitor C, this is the resistor R, and we are taking the output voltage from across this resistor over here. Okay, and you may consider this point to be grounded. Now we already discussed how to analyze this kind of circuit, so right now we will be doing a little bit faster. So in this case, this V out is basically V in divided by 1 by j omega c plus r times r. So this basically into V in, of course. So this basically, if we multiply both the numerator and the denominator by j omega c, you would get j times r omega c divided by j times r omega c plus 1 into V in. So V out divided by V in is basically j r omega c divided by j r omega c plus 1. And now if you consider the magnitudes, this magnitude of V out divided by the magnitude of V in is equal to r omega c divided by root over r omega c square plus 1. Okay, now just like before, we analyze the limits of low frequency and the limits of high frequency, and when this omega is low, which basically means low here means that omega is actually much less than 1 by RC. Okay, then this V out divided by V in so if omega is much lesser than RC, or which also means that R into omega C is much less than 1, this implies that R into omega C is much less than 1. So we can actually neglect this r omega c square compared to this 1 here. So the numerator, so the denominator is approximately 1. If r omega c is much less than 1, we can actually neglect this r omega c square compared to this 1 here. So the denominator is approximately 1. So V out by V in is approximately equal to r omega c mod of V out by V in, and then we already was working with the condition where r omega c is much less than 1. So this is actually approximately equal to 0. So when the frequency omega is low, then the output is approximately 0. The magnitude of voltage drop across the output is approximately 0. On the other hand, when omega is high, or in other words, omega is much greater than 1 by RC, which basically implies that r omega c is much greater than 1, then you can understand that the denominator has this r omega c square here and this 1 here. So if r omega c is much greater than 1, then this term becomes the dominant term in the denominator. So V out by V in is approximately equal to, in the numerator there was r omega c, and in the denominator is also approximately equal to this root over r omega c square. We have neglected the 1 here, so the denominator is approximately equal to root over r omega c square, which basically means that the denominator is equal to r omega c. So divided by r omega c, which is equal to 1. Okay, so in the low frequency limit, that is when omega is low, then this basically implies that mod of V out is approximately equal to 0. On the other hand, in the high frequency limit, when omega is high, this basically implies that mod of V out is approximately 1. Okay, so we noted that this high frequency filter is basically the opposite of the low frequency filter. When the frequency is really low, then the filter basically outputs nothing at the output probe. The output voltage is approximately 0. On the other hand, when the frequency is really high, then this circuit basically outputs or deposits the entire input voltage to the output probe. Okay, so this basically acts as a high pass filter. Okay, now let us look at the physical intuition of the high pass and the low pass filters. So this is our low pass filter. So I drew both the high pass and the low pass filters here, and here note that when this frequency is really low, in case of the low pass filter, when the frequency is really low, then this capacitor basically acts as an open circuit. So if the output basically acts as an open circuit, this basically means that the entire input would actually come across the output, because the output is open circuited. Okay. On the other hand, when the frequency is high, this capacitor basically acts as a short circuit here. So if the capacitor acts as a circuit, because we are taking the output voltage across the capacitor, this basically means that no voltage would actually be deposited at the output. Okay. Similarly, in case of high pass filters, this capacitor again acts as an open circuit when the frequency is really low. And if the capacitor acts as an open circuit, this means no current can flow in this path, because the capacitor is acting as an open circuit. And if no current can flow in this path, then the output voltage across the resistor is basically 0. Okay, so that is why for a high pass filter, the output voltage is 0 when the frequency is really low. On the other hand, when the frequency is really high, this basically means that the capacitor would act as a short circuit. And so if the capacitor acts as a short circuit, this means the entire input voltage actually drops across the capacitor, this resistor here. Okay, because the capacitor is now acting as a short circuit at high frequency, the entire voltage would actually come across this resistor here. So the magnitude of the output voltage would be equal to the magnitude of the input voltage. Okay, so that is the intuition or the physics of high pass and low pass filters. Now in case of filters, we have something which is known as cutoff frequency. So cutoff frequency is basically the frequency beyond which or at which the transition happens. So we just noted that the input versus output characteristics of a low pass filter looks like this. So when the frequency is really low, then mod of V out by V in is 1, and then as the frequency increases, this gradually deteriorates to 0. Okay. Similarly, we have not shown yet, but the characteristics of a high pass filter somewhat look like this. So V in versus V out divided by V in. So for a high pass filter, just as we discussed, that when the input frequency, it's not the voltage but the frequency actually. This is the frequency actually, because we are plotting versus frequency. Okay, so when the input frequency is really low, in that case the mod of V out versus V in is really low, but when the frequency is gradually increasing, this mod of V out by mod of V in increases and it becomes saturated at somewhere at 1 here. So I think I have also done a mistake in the previous graph. So this graph over here, in which I actually showed this characteristics of a low pass filter. So the x axis is actually the frequency axis, it's not the input voltage axis, because when the frequency is low, mod of V out by V in is 1. When the frequency is high, then the mod of V out by V in is approximately 0. So the x axis is actually the frequency axis. So this is the frequency axis over here. Okay, omega. Sorry for my mistake. Okay. Okay. So now these are basically characteristics of a low pass filter and a high pass filter respectively. So this is low pass and this is high pass. Now cutoff frequency is basically the frequency around which the switching from 1 to 0 gradually happens. So the switching actually happens in this region more or less. So to the left of this region, mod of V out by V in is approximately 1, and to the right of this region, mod of V out by V in is approximately 0. Similarly, for a high pass filter, the switching somewhat happens in this region. To the left of this region, the filter is actually rejecting the frequencies. So mod of V out by V in is approximately 0, and to the right of this region, the filter is actually accepting almost all the frequencies. So mod of V out by V is approximately 1. So this is the region over which the switching actually happens, of the switching of mod of V out by V in from 1 to 0 or from 0 to 1. So cutoff frequency basically defines the region near which the switching happens, okay, or the frequency around which the switching happens. Okay, so cutoff frequency is basically the frequency. So omega c is basically the cutoff frequency, and when the frequency of the incoming wave is equal to the cutoff frequency, then the magnitude of V out divided by the magnitude of V in is basically equal to 1 by root 2. So this is how we define cutoff frequency. So 1 by root 2 is approximately 0.7. So basically the cutoff frequency for a low pass filter is located somewhere here, and the cutoff frequency for a high pass filter is actually located somewhere here. Okay, so cutoff frequency is the frequency at which the magnitude of V out by V in is equal to 1 by root 2. Okay, so let us now look at these two filters, the low pass filter and the high pass filter, and try to figure out what the cutoff frequency is. So for a low pass filter, we already noted that this mod of V out divided by this mod of V in is equal to 1 divided by root over r omega c square plus 1. So this we actually derived earlier, and now this should be equal to 1 by root 2 at the cutoff frequency. So we put omega equal to omega c here because this is the cutoff frequency omega c, and this should be equal to 1 by root 2. Okay, so this basically means that r omega c square plus 1 is equal to 2, which basically implies that r omega c square is equal to 1. So r omega c is equal to 1, which implies that omega c is basically 1 by rc. Okay, so this is the angular frequency. If we actually write in terms of real frequency, it would become fc equals to 1 by 2 pi rc. So this is for the low pass filter. So let us see what results we get for the high pass filter. So again we use the same equation, that at the cutoff frequency mod of V out divided by mod of V in, this we have derived for the high pass filter to be r omega c divided by, this is the cutoff frequency, so omega c here, r omega c c square plus 1, and at the cutoff frequency this should be equal to 1 by root 2. So just as before, we just do some simple algebraic manipulation to get r omega c c square plus 1, this is equal to 2 times r omega c c square. So we again get the same equation, r omega c c square is equal to 1. So omega c is equal to 1 by rc. So omega c is equal to 1 by rc, and if we write again in terms of actual frequency, omega c is basically the angular cutoff frequency. If we write in terms of actual frequency, we would actually have to divide it by 2 pi, so 2 pi rc. Okay, so we noted that for both the high pass filter and the low pass filter, this cutoff frequency fc is equal to 1 by 2 pi rc, or the angular cutoff frequency omega c is basically 1 by rc. Now the question is, can we actually change, or can we manipulate the cutoff frequency according to our will? Because if we can't control the cutoff frequency, then there is no use of actually having filter. So the question is, can we control the cutoff frequency? So we note that this cutoff frequency basically depends on R and C. So the product RC basically determines the cutoff frequency. For example, let us plot this transfer characteristic. So V out mod of V out by V in. So the plot of mod of V out by V in versus omega is also called transfer characteristics. So remember this term. So this is known as transfer characteristics. So mainly because it is a measure of how much of the input is transferred to the output. So that is why it is known as transfer characteristics. And here I am drawing the transfer characteristics for low pass filter. So let us say for one combination of R and C, or for one RC product, the low pass filter gives me this kind of characteristic. So this is one here, and it gives me some characteristics like this. Okay, now let us say that I decrease the RC product. So if I decrease the RC product, this omega c is 1 by RC. So RC decreases means 1 by RC basically increases. So if I decrease the RC product, my cutoff frequency is going to increase. So I am drawing with a different color here. So if we increase this RC product, if we decrease the RC product, my transfer characteristics would look somewhat like this. So let us say that this is for R2C2, and this is for R1C1, and we can further decrease the RC product from R2C2. So let us say that we now have another product which is R3C3, which is still less than R2C2. So our transfer characteristics is now going to look somewhat like this. Okay, so let us say that this curve is for R3C3, and we know that R1C1 is greater than R2C2 is greater than R3C3. Okay, so in this case, Our cutoff frequency, again, it is the frequency at which the magnitude of the output divided by the magnitude of the input is 1 by root 2, which is basically 0.7, approximately 0.7. So let us call it this point as approximately 0.7 here. So the cutoff frequencies of each of these transfer characteristics lie somewhere here, around here. Okay, so if we basically decrease the RC product, the cutoff frequency increases and this curve basically shifts towards the right. So that's how we basically control the cutoff frequency for a low pass filter. Similarly, if we plot the transfer characteristics for a high pass filter, we can get similar kind of characteristics. So this is again V out versus V in, and this axis is basically omega, and we are plotting it for the high pass case. So this was our low pass filter here, and this is for the high pass filter. So let us say that we have got our transfer characteristics for this particular RC product, which is R1 C1 over here, and we get this kind of characteristics. At low frequency, V out is 0, and V out is approximately equal to V in at high frequencies. So this is basically 1 here, and this curve is for R1 C1. Now let us say we have a different RC product, let us call it R2 C2. So if we change, if we decrease the RC product, so if this relation still holds that R1 C1 is greater than R2 C2, then our transfer characteristics for R2 C2 is going to look somewhat like this. Okay, so this is for R2 C2 over here, and then let us say that we have further decreased our RC product. If we further decrease our RC product, this curve is again going to further shift towards the right. So let us say that this is for R3 C3, and again the cutoff frequency is at this point where mod of V out by V in is approximately 0.7. So the cutoff frequency is somewhere of these three curves, like somewhere at this points over here. Okay, so again this relation for this case also, for the high pass filter also, this relation still holds that R1 C1 is greater than R2 C2 is greater than R3 C3. So if we basically increase the RC product, if we basically decrease the RC product, then our cutoff frequency for both the high pass and the low pass filter is going to increase. Okay, so let us do up to here today. Thank you all. So the next day we would actually learn about band pass filters and band reject filters, and then we will go through Thevenin's theorem, and after that we would actually, so up to Thevenin's theorem we would do it quickly in the first two classes, because it is mainly necessary for your laboratory. Then we would start with the gradually with the course content. Okay, thanks everyone.